All right, so taking a trip up north now to talk about the AFC North first. And this is always one of the most fun divisions to watch. They get in season hard knocks this season. The entire division gets it. It's gonna be a lot of fun to watch that. But let's go team by team real quick. Starting off with the Cincinnati Bengals. They are a weird team for this season. They're a weird team mainly because of how their season ended last year and the way the roster is constructed at the current moment. But no matter what, the key thing is for them to finally get off to a hot start. Since Burrow has gotten there, it's been nothing but slow starts to the season, and that hinders them come late season to where like they need to play incredibly perfect games. Burrow is also coming off of an injury, meaning he's going to be entering the season banged up for the third straight year, which is not what you want out of your quarterback. So definitely going to be keeping an eye on Joe Burrow and his wrist. They lose Joe Mixon, so the running back room is now going to be a little bit weaker. They replace him with Zach Moss, who is a solid back, but not Joe Mixon level of solid. So there still leaves some things to be desired there. Tyler Boyd leaves, and that is an underrated part of the receiver room, which is now gone. And replacing him isn't going to be the easiest thing. Trenton Irwin had his moments last year, and he's now going to be asked to do a lot more and in a bigger role for this offense. They also gained Mike Gesicki, who is a solid receiving tight end, but he doesn't really add much else. He can make incredible contested catches, but he can't really break tackles. He's not really that elusive, and his blocking just isn't it. This is coming from a Dolphins fan. I would have loved to keep him, but he just didn't fit the offense. So really, if you want him to be at his best, he needs to be a big-bodied, not a big-bodied receiver, less than a tight end. The front seven, when it comes to defense, still looks really solid. A lot of key pieces returning. Same goes with the secondary. The main reason that Cincy struggled at the end of the season was those injuries. So especially the 1-2 Joe Burrow. So if they can just stay healthy, I like their chances. And if they can get off to a hot start, I like their chances. I do think though that the seat for Zach Taylor is starting to get at least somewhat warm. It's been 2 seasons since they made the Super Bowl. This will be the third season. They need to start doing something. They need to have a good bounce back season. Otherwise, I will start looking at Zach Taylor and seeing kind of like what the waters are over there in Cincy. From a team who missed the playoffs to a team who always finds a way to sneak into the playoffs. We're going to Pittsburgh to talk about the Steelers, and they finally get rid of Matt Canada. He just did not know how to run an offense, and it sucks. I feel like Kenny Pickett could have been solid, but Matt Canada just completely destroyed him. And listen, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. If there's one thing that you're going to know about this team entering the season, is that their defense is going to be a top 10 unit in the league. They consistently have great defenses, and they add to an already great defense with the additions of Deshaun Elliott at safety, Patrick Queen at the linebacker room, and Cameron Sutton, who, yes, he has his issues off the field, is going to be suspended for the first 8 weeks, but when he comes back, he's going to be a nice presence to that secondary. They also draft Peyton Wilson to add on to the defensive stuff, which is a nice draft pick. I do like that pick. And then the offense, which was the main issue last year, they rebuilt it. They added some nice pieces. The offensive line was the main issue. They had a mass influx through the draft with Troy Fautanu, Zach Frazier, and Mason McCormick all being draft acquisitions. So the new quarterbacks of Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, whoever ends up playing, is going to have a good O-line in front of them. They get Russell Wilson on a really, really team-friendly deal. A lot of thanks to the Broncos having to pay Russ a lot of money this season due to all the dead cap hit and everything. And then the Justin Fields trade. It's a very safe trade for Pittsburgh to make because either he sees the field and does really, really well, or he either doesn't see the field, or if he does see the field and does poorly, you didn't give up a lot and you don't need to pay him. So it's a very like win-win style trade for Pittsburgh. Because who knows, he might be the future or he might just not. So we'll see. When it comes to the receiver room, they add a few acquisitions with Quez Watkins, Scotty Miller, and Van Jefferson coming in through free agency. And then they drafted Roman Wilson to create a pretty nice receiver room, which is started by George Pickens. The main signing, though, that's what that got a lot. That the main signing that got talked about a lot when it happened, but hasn't been talked about a lot since, is the Steelers going out and getting Cordell Patterson. With the new kickoff rules, Cordell Patterson is going to be a monster for Pittsburgh. And I'm really, really looking forward to see how he handles this new kickoff rules, because he was already a great return man before the rules changed. Now with how the rules are and the fact that that kickers are actually going to have to kick him the ball, he's going to make a lot of explosive plays. I'm excited to watch that. For the final team from Ohio, the Cleveland Browns, they are a weird team. You can make an argument they exceeded expectations last year. I mean, they made the playoffs while starting 5 different quarterbacks throughout the season, and they didn't have Nick Chubb for like 15 weeks because of his injury. So they get him back to, again, a team that already won 11 games and made the playoffs. Deshaun Watson, at least in my opinion, still has a lot to prove when it comes to his level of play. Because remember, they did give him a market changing contract. That was a massive contract, and I personally just don't think he's lived up even close to it when it comes to his tenure so far. In part because he's been missing the field a lot, but they are trying to help him. They bring in Jerry Jeudy to be paired with Amari Cooper. They get Elijah Moore. They have Elijah Moore as well, so it's a somewhat decent receiving room. They still have David Njoku. Again, Nick Chubb is getting healthy again, but if Deshaun Watson does get injured again, like he did last year, they have a lot better of a QB room than they did last year. They have famous Jameis Winston and they have Tyler Huntley. Both have been really good quarterbacks in the past. And also, they still have Dorian Thomas Robinson down there as the 4th string right now, and he's going to be competing for a spot on this roster. But listen, when it comes to Cleveland, just like most of the AFC North, one thing you know is going to be relatively consistent with them is their style of play, especially on the defense side of the ball. And it was a top 10 defensive unit last year. It should be up there as well since they haven't lost a lot of key pieces. And their dominant D-line is still pretty much entirely intact. They add Devin Bush to improve the linebacker room, and he's going to be paired with JOK. And I mean, the Browns are going to be competitive, and they're going to be fighting for division. Whether or not they win it, I'm not sure. It does depend on if they can stay healthy. Finally, we talk about the AFC runner-up. We talk about the team that had the MVP last year, the team whose jersey I am wearing for this, the Baltimore Ravens. They came close last year, and the big factor to their loss against Kansas City was a lack of a ground game, and they went and attacked it by picking up Derrick Henry in free agency. His presence in that backfield is going to be massive, and they have a really good tight end duo in Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. I want to see a lot more 12 personnel out of Baltimore this season because of those 3 people. The receiver room, though, is still lacking a little bit, in my opinion. But if Zay Flowers can take a massive lead, he will be more than worth what they picked him at. They also selected Tez Walker in the 4th round, so he could provide some help as well and some assistance. He was really good in North Carolina, so I'm interested to see how his play translates to the NFL. Now, him having Lamar Jackson as his quarterback, I'm not sure how great that will be for his development, because Lamar Jackson, when you play with Lamar Jackson, some of the would-be targets are going to be turned into Lamar Jackson rushing attempts, but that's kind of the fun part with Lamar Jackson, is when he's running, the offense is clicking. The defense is still going to be an incredible unit, just like it was last year. The key thing was they were able to keep Madubuike, because there was some talks that he might be gone eventually. They keep him. They still have Roquan Smith. They still have Kyle Hamilton. So they still have that 3-headed monster, which I mentioned. I don't know if I mentioned it on the channel or it was just a friend, but those 3, Madubuike, Roquan Smith, and Kyle Hamilton, this is the modern Ravens trio of Hagoli Nakta, Ray Lewis, and Ed Reed. Now, I'm not saying that all 3 of those are going to be playing to those exact same levels, but that is their main 3, the same way those 3 were the main 3 for Baltimore. So they lose Patrick Queen, yes, but the Ravens know how to find quality defensive players. and they still have Justin Tuck, who is about as automatic as you can be. If anything, the only thing I'm questioning for this defense is how are they going to not really necessarily replace, but how is the departure of Anthony Weaver going to play a role in this, as he's now the defensive coordinator for Miami? Well, with all that being said, leave down below what your thoughts on the NFC North are. Again, I'm going to do full proper predictions an entire week right before the regular season starts for every single division. So, if you want to stay tuned for the NFL regular season, as the preseason is very closely approaching, make sure you subscribe. I'm going to be doing live play-by-plays for the regular season, as many Dolphin games as I can. Hopefully every single primetime game, and also any other games I might want to throw in there from like a 4 o'clock window if Miami plays at 1, or a 1 o'clock window if Miami plays at 4, or of course Miami has a few primetime games. There's going to be a lot of play-by-plays going on. So subscribe to stick around and also leave a like. You know the whole YouTube spiel. Thank you all for watching. Have yourselves a damn good one. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.